Hey y'all, welcome back to Exile Wargaming, where today, and as always, we're going to be talking about winning with Harlequins, specifically in the Reaper's Wager, allied with Drukhari against Imperial Knights in the Noble Lance. Now, there are so many ways to build an army in the Reaper's Wager detachment. You can go heavy into Harlequins or barely take any of them at all. The stratagems and enhancements are absolutely incredible. Whatever you want to play in the index is going to end up getting a huge boost from this detachment. But this list itself seems to suit my play style best. There's a lot of redundancy, there's a lot of symmetry, and I get to bring a ton of Harlequins. So on the Harlequin side of things, we have a Solitaire, a Troop Master with the Reaper's Cowl attached to an 11-man unit of troops with the fusion pistols and all the good stuff. We have two more Troop Masters attached to 2 units of troops inside of 2 Star Weavers. On the Drukhari side of things, we're bringing an Archon and Drazar, both attached to 5-man units of Incubi in 2 Venoms. We have 2 units of Scourges with Haywire, 2 Ravagers with Dark Lances, 2 units of 5 Mandrakes, and a Beastmaster. What we get to do in this army is run a very straightforward trading style MSU approach where almost everything punches up. We can use Fight on Death, Advance in Charge, Lethals, Sustained. We can use some movement shenanigans, re-embark and disembark into our transports, the Star Weavers and Venoms, each and every turn, and just make the game as difficult as possible for our opponents to score primary or secondaries. The goal is to just continually trade on objectives over and over again, and this is the style of list I have found the most success with in this detachment so far. Now, our opponent is bringing Imperial Knights in the Noble Lance. They have Canis Rex, a Knight Valiant with Mysterious Guardian that allows it to pick up at the end of the turn and drop down anywhere it wants, 9 inches away from something else, the following. They're bringing 3 Armiger Hellverns, 2 Armiger Warglaves, a Calidus Assassin, an Eversor Assassin, and 2 units of 5 Inquisitorial Agents. They are coming in at 11 total units at 1,995 points. Now, we will be playing Mission M, which is Purge the Foe, Rapid Escalation, and Crucible of Battle style deployment on GW Terrain Layout 4. When we get into deployment, you're going to see quite a few things that you're used to. There is a lot of symmetry, a ton of redundancy on the Drukhari Harlequin side of things. We have a Ravager up top here with 3 Dark Lances. We have a Venom with, I believe, an Archon and 5 Incubi, and then we have a Troop Master with 5 troops inside of this Star Weaver. We also have our big 12-man unit of troops up here in this rune. We are just going to infiltrate a little bit forward so that we can put pressure on this objective. If we don't get the first turn, I don't want to waste 200 plus points on this unit just getting wiped off the board, even if it forces our opponent maybe to bring out some of their big knights or expose something a little bit more useful. We know that they're going to have to push onto a lot of these objectives anyway. Let's just get as much value from these Harlequin troops as we absolutely can. The +1 to wound and the devastating wounds when combined with fusion pistols, if we can use lethal or sustained on those, could be absolutely incredible when going into our opponent's units on this side of the board. Now, in the middle, we have a Beastmaster. They ended up doing their scout already when I took the picture, but they're up in this rune. They started back here. We have Drazar in a Venom right here with his Incubi. We have a unit of Mandrakes on this home field objective, and also a unit of Scourges with Haywire. Their 14-inch move allows them to move up to this mid section of the board, and then we can essentially use their Fire and Fade to jump back behind this rune afterwards. So we're just keeping them safe. I don't want to give them any lines of sight. Hopefully they do a lot of work in this game. On the bottom side of the board, we have another Ravager, a Star Weaver, we have Scourges, and then Mandrakes down here to try to force our opponent to move forward onto this objective. If we end up getting the first turn, I want something cheap to put on this instead of wasting something more beneficial afterwards. Now, our opponents ended up placing a Warglaive Armiger right down here. They have Canis Rex over here, and then there's 2 Hellverns I'm sorry, one Helvern over here, and the Knight Valiant all the way back here. I think he debated putting it in strategic reserve, but given that we can take up so much board space, he might as well should just stay on the board. And if we get first turn, he can pick them up and then redeploy wherever he wants afterwards on his turn. There's another Helvern over here, another Helvern up here, and then a Warglaive down here as well. The Eversor Assassin is here to essentially maybe counterpunch our unit of Harlequin troops afterwards, and then a unit of Inquisitorial Agents, I believe. It was just a trash unit up front here, maybe if he needed to get onto the objective. And the other unit of Inquisitorial Agents is back here on the home field with a Calidus Assassin down here as well. Now our opponent wins the turn 1 dice roll and gets to go first. He ends up drawing Extend Battle Lines and Call the Horde. Now he can score Call the Horde because of this Beastmaster pack. He ends up discarding it at the end of this turn for a CP, and he will get Extend Battle Lines. He ends up shifting almost all of his force up forward. A Helvern back here, the Helvern that was over behind this rune ends up just pushing out behind this. The Eversor Assassin just holds here out of cover, and then the Warglaive ends up pushing out here. Both of these units up top do end up getting a sneaky angle on these Harlequin troops in this rune. They fire everything they can. Stealth is pretty good, and those 4-up invulns did some work as well. We only end up losing 3 of our Harlequin troop up here. So we're down to 8 with a troop master attached. Down low, he pushed Canis Rex all the way up, and he advanced the Warglaive to get onto this objective over here. The Calidus Assassin is positioned right back here, just far enough out of range. We're not going to get any useful shooting into it, but it can heroically intervene if it needed, or overwatch potentially with that torrent weapon. The other Helvern came up, and then the Knight Valiant, I believe is what this one's called, end up pushing down here. So in this turn, he didn't get much taken care of as far as shooting, but he did stage appropriately, and he's getting to that point where he's going to be able to engage our army if we don't do anything in the clapback. In our turn 1, we end up drawing Sabotage and Overwhelming Force. Both of these will be very, very easy to get. We end up sabotaging this objective right here with Incubi, Archon, and this Venom. And then everything else pushes forward. Hopefully we can put this game away in one turn. Our opponent exposed a little too much for us to not be able to deal with it. So I am very, very happy with the outcome of this turn. We end up pushing our Star Weaver up top here, disembark our troops, then we push our other unit of Harlequin troops, the big brick with infiltrate and stealth, all the way up here. We get a 5-inch advance, and we'll be using advance, shoot, and charge. This Ravager pokes out up here to get range of both of these armigers on the top edge, and then the Mandrakes picked up at the end of our opponent's turn and dropped down right back here, a nice safe spot to do whatever we need to with them later. I picked them up just in case we got something like containment, and I wanted to be able to push them forward there as well. The Scourges that were back behind this rune over here ended up pushing all the way out, and they're going to get shots into Canis Rex. The Drazar unit of Incubi get out of the Venom up here and are going to push towards this section of the board. I think they had a 7-inch charge. It was a hair shy of 8. And are going to try to push into Canis Rex with some maybe lethals or sustained if they can. And then the Venom's going to move up as well, just to guarantee that if these Incubi do get in combat, they can get back in the Venom afterwards, or if they don't make the charge, they can get back in anyway. Our troop from the Star Weaver over here end up pushing up. They do get into fusion pistol range, I believe, but not Melta for a couple of them. And then the Star Weaver again moves up as well to make sure they can re-embark afterwards if they make a charge or if they don't. The Scourges are going to push up and touch this section of the board. There was one that wasn't going to make it in range, but he didn't have a Haywire Blaster anyway, and are going to start putting shots into Canis Rex over here with a Ravager shooting into, I believe, this Armiger. So we are positioned to do a ton ton of damage this turn. If it goes our way, we should walk out of this the victor in possibly 1 or 2 turns. So let's start at the top. The Harlequins started off winning the wager. What we ended up doing is moving the troops with fusion pistols right here. We pushed a few of those shots into this Armiger Warglaive on top and did a couple wounds. Then we ended up doing all of the remaining wounds with the biggest troop over here on this one. We are able to bring it down to, I believe, 1 or 2 wounds remaining at the end of the shooting phase. Now, we also split up our neuro pistols and were able to bring down the Eversor Assassin down here on this board, which was very nice for us. I was not anticipating this happening. I did not think that any of the Drukhari units were going to start getting rerolls, but they ended up getting tripped after this. So the Harlequins do kill a unit. The wager then flips over to Drukhari. We fire everything from this Ravager into this Warglaive and end up doing 11 wounds over here, but we don't kill it, which is perfect for us. We end up using a unit of Scourges to fire into Canis Rex up top here with the pain tokens, re-rolling everything, and they're able to bring down, I believe it was 10 wounds from one of the Scourge units. The other unit of Scourges fires in with pain tokens as well, and we're able to bring him down another 7. They are getting a 6 up, feel no pain as well, and he was making quite a bit of them. The Venom ends up putting another 2 wounds onto Canis Rex as well afterwards. So we don't bring anything down with the Drukhari shooting at this point in time, and then we end up firing this Ravager in with full rerolls of 1s to hit and 1s to wound into this Armiger after the troops and the Starweaver fired in and blows that up. So the wager then, before the combat phase, gets flipped back to the Harlequins, where we are able to move into almost everything else over here. So in the shooting phase, we brought down this Armiger to 2 wounds remaining. We brought down this Armiger to 1 wound remaining, and we ended up doing 19 wounds to Canis Rex while bringing another Armiger down in total. So almost 3 Armigers killed, and Canis Rex is on his last leg. Getting into the charge phase, we push everything we possibly can into the remainder of these big Armigers and Canis Rex. The Harlequin troops up here make a good long charge into this Armiger and are able to make contact with the Armiger in the back. This should be no issue bringing them down. Now, Drazar and the Incubi end up charging into Canis Rex. So does the Venom, just so we can maybe tie it up afterwards. And the Calidus Assassin ends up using heroic intervention to get into combat with the Harlequins, who also made a charge into Canis Rex. So the Calidus Assassin fights first. We lose 3 of our Harlequin troops. Then we fight over here. We bring down both of these Armigers with devastating wounds. That part was actually very, very easy. And then our opponent interrupts and fights again with Canis Rex, who's able to wipe out all of the Incubi before they get to attack. But Drazar, getting everything that he has, uses a pain token, rerolls it all. We went to give him lethals and ends up doing 7 wounds to Canis Rex himself before the Harlequin troops had to fight, and is able to bring him down. He did 9. He made 2 feel no pains, and he was gone. He only had 5 wounds remaining, I believe. So the Harlequin troop was then free to fight the Calidus Assassin, and we were able to bring down that as well. So we brought down in the charge phase Canis Rex, an Armiger Warglaive, Armiger Hellvern, and a Calidus Assassin. Now, I know this isn't a Canis Rex model, but I did want to show everyone exactly what it looked like. It was so cool. Tons of blood and guts and gore. So we're using it on the table today. But Drazar showing up, getting things done was the highlight. Now, at the end of our turn, we end up re-embarking the troops and Drazar and this other unit of troops on the top edge of the board by this Starweaver, all back into their transports. And our opponent really only has a couple units remaining on the board. The Solitaire last turn ended up chewing up these Imperial agents, and then there's another unit of Imperial agents back here, but he's basically down to an Armiger Helvern over here, another Helvern over here, and the Knight Valiant. He picked up the Knight Valiant at the end of the last turn and ends up placing him over here on this side of the table. He's able to do a pretty substantial amount of work to both the Starweaver that he blows up entirely, and the Helvern ends up putting some shots into this unit of Harlequins as well. They're able to bring down quite a few of them. Stealth is pretty good, but again, back to the Valiant, he puts shots everywhere that he possibly can. He did not want to shoot into these Harlequins, which he could have wiped out in the shooting phase, because I believe he wanted to charge and get onto the objective afterwards. So the missiles and everything ended up firing into this Ravager back here, brought it down to just a few wounds remaining, and then one of the big guns, I believe, went into this Starweaver. I don't think he had range on the big lance, I think a harpoon to get into this Ravager, but he was able to bring this down. It's like 12 devastating wounds, anti-vehicle 4+, so we didn't have any hope at all, but we do disembark our troops over here so that we can use heroic intervention if our opponent decides to charge this with the Warglaive afterwards. But they bring down a pretty substantial number of troops from this unit. I believe it was just a couple remaining at the end. This Helvern down here just scooches up to try to get shots into the Solitaire, who makes a bunch of saves, makes all the saves against the autocannon, and ends up taking 2 wounds from the heavy stubber. So the Solitaire is down to just 1 wound remaining. Now, our opponent did end up drawing Cleanse and Assassination. They are not going to be able to get Cleanse, so they're going to ditch that, but they are going to get Assassination when he charges the Helvern into a Troop Master and another troop that were still on this point. All of the rest of them were wiped out in the shooting phase, but we do use Heroic Intervention to get in combat here afterwards. So he tank shots, gets rid of the Troop Master, scores 5 points on Assassination. They get points for the other unit that they just killed, and then our troops are able to put 8 wounds back on the Helvern afterwards. So in our turn 2, we end up just pushing everything forward to stage for the remainder of the game. We draw Storm Hostile Objective and Cleanse. We're going to move the Beastmaster pack up and cleanse this center objective. Now that we don't have to worry about screening or anything like that, we're going to use the Mandrakes that we picked up at the end of our opponent's turn and drop them back down over here, and they're going to cleanse this objective. Everything else just stages for a follow-up turn to be able to bring down the Knight Valiant. This Venom pushes up with the Archon and Incubi inside. The Ravager and the Scourges just get behind cover, so the Valiant cannot get a line of sight into them through this rune. And then we have another Ravager and our Scourges up top over here. Our other unit of Mandrakes is still just hanging out back here, scoring us primary. Now, we did end up disembarking Drazar and using Advance and Shoot and Charge into this Armiger Helvern down here. We move the Venom up as well so we can re-embark if we need to afterwards. And then we push the Starweaver up to get a few extra shots in as well. The Solitaire is going to reposition down here to get rid of the Inquisitorial agents. And hopefully by the end of the turn, our opponent will only have a Knight Valiant left and we can call it a game. Now in the shooting phase, we were able to bring down the Armiger Helvern at the top objective with our troops in their fusion pistols, so the wager flipped over to the Drukhari in the charge phase. After some shooting, Drazar was able to make the charge into the Helvern at the bottom objective, and he brings him down without much of a problem at all. In our opponent's turn 3, they have 1 unit left on the board. They're able to bring down all of the Harlequin troops and then charges with tank shock onto this objective afterwards. In our turn 3, we push everything we can to get angles on this Knight Valiant, and we are able to bring it down a substantial number of wounds. I think we left it with 3 or 4 remaining, and the Archon and some Incubi are able to bring it down by the end of turn 3. And by the end of turn 3, our opponent was entirely tabled. So at the end of the day, all I can say is, wow, this army felt perfect. We didn't have to focus on the wager. We just let it happen naturally, and it really allowed us to steamroll. The Drukhari shooting was out of this world. On turn one, when we flipped the wager after killing the Eversor assassin with the Harlequins, all of our Scourges and Ravagers ended up getting those rerolls of 1 to hit and 1 to wound, and it allowed us to bring down almost every one of our opponent's units down to just a couple units remaining so we can clean up easily in the fight phase afterwards. All of our infantry from there is able to just punch up. We were punching up into toughness 10, 12, 13 vehicles the entire game, and I didn't really feel any of the negativity from it. The Star Weavers and Venoms felt incredible. It really just allowed us to out-activate our opponents. We made almost an entire turn of our opponent's shooting with the Knight Valiant be nothing. He brought down a Star Weaver and a unit of troops. So again, just being able to kind of re-embark and protect them from heavy activations means everything. That's why I love the Star Weavers and the Venoms as much as I do. But this army is very, very punishing because of them. If your opponent does not have enough sufficient screens or chaff to blunt your initial blow, or if they don't have enough units to activate to destroy your transports and your protection before you're able to push back into them and punch up. But as I said earlier, all I can say after playing this game is, wow, that felt incredible. But thank you again. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having as much fun with this detachment as I am. I don't know about you, but every single game I play, I feel like it's getting a little bit more powerful and a little bit more fun. I apologize for the short game today, but to be honest, a lot of the games that I've been playing in the Reaper's Wager are turning out just like this. I look forward to hearing from all of you in the comment section. Please like, share, subscribe, join the Discord. Any little bit of help means more than you all can possibly imagine. But thanks again, take care, and I'll see y'all in the next video.